So, welcome everybody. Welcome to Dragon Digital Events. It's great to have you all here again. So, just let you know, guys know, my name is Roland Stanley, and I'm the founder of Dragon co-working space based in Kent, Rochester, Kent, which is just southeast of London for any of you guys that aren't UK based. It'd be great to connect. So, just put my name into LinkedIn. Roland Stanley. It'd be great to see some of you guys and actually connect on LinkedIn. So we're going to get started in just a minute with Karl. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat. If we don't have time to answer them today, we will get back to you and we'll answer you via email, or you feel welcome to email me any questions for Karl, or I'm sure he'll give you his links to connect with him as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about Canva today. And as you can see from my appalling Canva presentation, I use Canva, but I'm not great at it. So when Karl was talking about Canva, I said to him, look, we really need you. You're really an expert in what you do. You're a guy that does lots of social media. It's your job. Please, can you come and show us some tips and tricks about Canva and how we can take it to the next level? And he's agreed. He's done it before for us, and it's going to be a really great presentation today. So if you do have any more questions, please do connect with Karl. He'll be more than welcome to help you out. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and going to hand over to Karl, and he can show us all about Canva.
Hello, everybody. So apologies that I'm slightly smaller in your screen than you would normally see on a Zoom. I thought it might be easier for me so you can still see me, as well as be able to put some of the stuff that you can do in Canva through the process, because there's a lot you can do with it, and it's a tool that's super useful in terms of social media, but also in terms of a lot of your business things that you're going to be doing. There's loads of things that you can do through the Canva platform, both in the free version and the premium. I'm going to sort of walk through both of them. I use the premium one, and I think it's probably one of the best investments you can make for your business, in terms of it only being £10 a month, and the amount you can get back from it is incredibly good. So I would definitely recommend it as a tool. It's one of those things where you don't need to have the same sort of skill set as you would do if you were doing something like Photoshop or InDesign. So it's basically an easier entry level, but without taking away the professionalism. And I think that's the important part of what Zoom does well. It still makes you look good, which is what it's all about. It still keeps you on brand, but it doesn't take away from those slightly important side of stuff without having the difficulty of having to learn a completely new software. So I'm going to run you through some of the basics. I'm going to show you some of the more advanced stuff that you can do through Canva as well. There is hundreds and hundreds of things you can do through the platform, though, so I'm not going to be able to show you all of it today. If you do have any questions you want to ask me, please put them in the chat. I'll try and look to the side and answer them as I can. And then if I don't answer them now, I'll try and go through some at the end. And then if I don't go through at the end, email me and I will happily answer your questions. Not a problem. But with that, I'm going to sort of delve straight in to some of the basic side of it, which is just sort of making your posts for social media, which is probably what most of you guys are going to be using Canva for, and showing you some of the tools that are available inside it. Again, I'm going to show you all the stuff that is all premium, and if you do have questions about whether it's premium or free, I can send you over Canva have a link about which one does which, basically. So super easy to follow along. But I'm going to jump straight in by making a social media post. So this is the first page you'll land onto when you log into Canva. Canva has a whole bunch of templates available for you to use pretty much anytime you want to use them, and they're all got really good rights in terms of the copyright ability to use them on your social media channels. The only thing that you might come across is if you're maybe trying to do something like drop shipping and you're selling like pictures on front of a t-shirt, for instance, you have to look at some of the photos rights if you're reselling products. But if you're just using it for your social media, then you have rights to use everything. So that's a really great point, because basically Canva bought out all of the smaller the video and picture based sections that you can buy. So basically like Pexels that you might have used before or come across, Pixabay, they're all owned by Canva now, and all of their libraries are based inside the Canva library. So you just got access basically to a whole bunch of free photography and videos, which is really helpful. And there's always that sort of horrible thing in social media of stock imagery. Like I am always telling people that don't use stock if you can. It's good to use your own stuff, but it's not always an opportunity, especially in the middle of a pandemic. It's quite hard to get out and take photos. So actually sometimes it's easier for you guys to grab some stock imagery, and the more you have access to, the better, the less likely you are to have the same as somebody else, which I think is why stock imagery sort of drops down a little bit. You don't want to have the same imagery as someone else on the internet, because then you just look similar, and that's what branding's about. It's all about sort of cutting your own space in the market. So Yeah, we're going to start with just when making a Facebook post. As mentioned, you can pretty much make everything that you'd possibly want to make in Canva. Anything that requires any sort of digital side of design. You can go from logos through to presentations, all of the stuff that I'm using today. Well, not the software, but the design work in the background's all done through Canva. It just makes it an easy tool for you basically to run forward with. But we're going to start with the Facebook post because, as mentioned, most people use Canva for the ease of social media posting. The first thing you're going to land when you come into is that there's basically a whole bunch of templates. So the straight off the bat, you've got some pretty good, well-designed templates that you can use at any time. I always try and recommend that for one, at least you brand them to be your own. Don't use their colors because you want to make sure that everything that comes across is all in your own colors. That's instantaneously recognizable. The other thing as well is that because they're the first things that come up, everybody else is also clicking on them as well. So it means that you potentially are going to look like somebody else again. And that's what this whole idea about is about changing over to make sure that things look your own and that you have your own identity. But what we are going to do is we're going to start with we'll do a sales post. Okay, so imagine we're a cookie sales business, nice and easy. So if I was a cookie sales business, I've already instantaneously got the stuff I would need to do my bake sale when it's coming up. Obviously, we'll change it over to UK because we're based down in Rochester, but we can just put all of our details in and then we basically have everything we need to get started. And I always have this thing as well when I'm typing that if someone's watching, I can't type. I don't know what it is. So I'm fine when everyone else is not watching. And so what you've done is you've just got an easy start to whatever you needed to do. And I think that the whole thing for me is that we need to take what they've got originally and put it into our own branding. And that's what it's all about. So there's a whole bunch of tools that are built in directly into the system for Canva to make that easier. If you've got the premium service like we have, then basically what you can do is you can save your brand assets. And that is the first thing that I'd recommend you set up on your when you're getting started on this is your brand assets. So at the bottom here, there's a bit that says add another palette. You didn't see that, I'll do it again. So add another palette. Yours might say add a palette because you might not have one already. And then what that opens up is a thing called your brand kit. If you can't struggle to get there, basically what that does is on the home page, when you come on, there's also a bit on the side that says brand kit, and you can click on that. Basically what that gives you the opportunity to do is to load in your logo. So you can have all the different styles of logo you have. So you might have one that's on a white logo that's ready for black backgrounds. You might have a colored one that's ready for et cetera, et cetera. You might even have one that's for social media, which is just like the first letter of your logo, whatever that might be. And you can put them in there. Obviously, I have multiple clients, therefore I have multiple logos in there. You guys probably only have one client or yourself. So you'll be using that as that'll be your way of doing it. You just put your ones in there. And that sort of comes on to the next point of using brand colors. So brand colors are the next important part, is that you will probably have developed a brand identity. And if you haven't, then come and talk to us because that's what we do as well. That's great. But if you haven't got one of those, you can come, have a chat with us and we can get that sorted. But you probably have already got something sort of sorted out and ready to go. And basically what you want to do is just add them in. And it's really simple. It's all done with hex codes. Most of you will have those already. If you're using something like a presentation from PowerPoint, you can grab those hex codes. If you have like RGB numbers, which is the other thing you're doing, if you go to a print, you can basically just go into Google and type in like RGB to hex, and you can type in your RGB stuff and it will tell you what your hex code is, and you can copy it across. Google, pretty good at all that sort of stuff. If you just type in whatever, something to something, there'll be a converter somewhere that will do it. But then you can put in your colors. So Clockwork Moggy, our colors, we have 4 different colors, which is our like accented colors alongside black and white, which we use in most of the stuff. So all of those are ready to go for any time. And then I could also upload a font. So if I use a personalized font, and this is important, you have the rights to use the personalized font, because if you upload one randomly, then you might not have the rights to it. And if you download one from the internet, some of them don't have rights. You have to credit them. So somewhere on your website, you might have to put something at the bottom that just says like, oh, this came from this website, and that's okay, but you need to make sure that you're following the copyright laws that are there. Well, I recommend if you're looking for a font, look on Google Fonts, because Google Fonts are available for everybody to use, and they've got quite a big selection on there, and you can pick a font that's yours. And once you've picked it, stick to it. It's really important. So normally what you'd have is you'd have a heading font, then you'd have a body font. So like the ones that are your sort of big standout ones, you have your heading, and then for anything that's just normal text, you have your body text, and both of them will be quite interesting. We actually use Archivo here. That's the one that we use. We use Archivo bold, if we're using for a big heading, and then we use Archivo medium if we're using something in the middle. And that's basically all it is. It's nice and simple. You can find all those, and Canva has got a whole load of these built in as well, so you don't need to go and find them necessarily. You'll find they've got loads left that you can just pick from, and they're all got the rights for you to use as it is. So flicking back to where we were, so now if we've put all of our detail into the brand kit, we've got all of our colors on the side now, so we can use them when we want. So if I wanted to make it into Clockwork Moggy branding, I could change the colors across, and I can make it all in our colors to make it a little bit more on brand, which is great. I apologize, it's not going to be the most of it. I'm going to try and do it quickly. But what it does basically is it just pulls everything through and makes sure that everything looks your color straight away when you see it. We have a thing where we, and this is a little bit more advanced, but it's up to you how you use your brand. Depending on who's talking, we sometimes have different colors. So if it's something to do with social media, we use the blue. If it's to do with branding, we use the green. And you just need to think about that as you're making your posts, and it works the same way. It's quite a nice way of just keeping some consistency for everything that you're putting out. And the whole thing about social media is consistency, and branding is consistency. You want to make sure everything, there's always a way that you can look back and you can see what's going on. So nice and simple way of getting started. Talked about the brands, talked about the fonts. When it comes to the font, you can change your font up in the top left. There's all the Google ones. These are all the ones that Canva will give you access to. There's loads of them that you can find. And there's also the ability to upload, as I said, which all these ones are by us. We've uploaded these ones. And then your brand fonts will come up at the top all the time. So you can always find your brand fonts. So I can put it into our brand font, so I know it's right. We always have things in capitalized. So if you're copying something across from like a Word document and you want to capitalize it, there's a nice little handy button that does that for you automatically. You just press the uppercase button up here, and then you might need to make it so it's the right size for you so that it fits on one line, and then you're good to go. That's basically the most basic way of making yourself a nice looking thing. That's obviously not what we're going to do today, because we're going to do a little bit more advanced than that. So if we were trying to make something a little bit more interesting, we might move things around just so they're a little bit more to the side. We might want to find a nice photo to put alongside it. So we're cookies. The really good thing about what the Canva does now, which it didn't used to do very well, is it's got loads and loads of available PNGs. So basically photos without a background, which make them super. They just look more professional with cut out stuff sometimes. You can choose whether or not they're cut out. What size they are and like the rough colors and things using the filters up the top. It's quite a nice way of just finding what you've got going on. If you're going into elements, so just trying to find a cookie, difference between element and a photo is basically one's clip art, one isn't clip art, one's taken on the camera. It's a nice easy way of thinking about it. But if you're trying to find one that matches in, so we might want to use these cookies because they look nice. Although I've just eaten dinner, so for the American people, probably, I don't know what time it is there, but probably not dinner time. But yeah, so for me, I might want to put something down the bottom. And then the first thing I want to do is obviously put my logo in there, because you want to keep your branding across the whole stuff. So in the folders in the bottom corner, there's basically a button that says logos. Nice and simple. You click on there, your logo should be in there. Ironically, ours isn't, because we don't use it very often on this. So I'll use someone else's logo, and then I'll pop it down in the bottom. And what a big part of branding might just be that your consistency revolves around you having your logo in the bottom left-hand corner or in the top right-hand corner, wherever they might be. Just trying to keep that across the whole the board as the way you're going. Just means that everything's always in the same place. So someone sees it. It's as simple as just like, we call it stopping the scroll. I always like to reference it to when you're on the toilet looking at Facebook and you're scrolling through, and then there's something that just picks your attention and makes you stop. That's the stuff that's important, and that's the stuff that really sets you apart, especially when it comes to like Facebook ads and things similar. And how that works normally is by big, bright, bold colors, or something big, bright, and bold. That's why we have a lot of pinks and greens and blues. They're like quite naturally, they stand out in sometimes quite a stale corporate-y background, especially like LinkedIn. We instantaneously stand out more than some of the others one will, which is a good way instantly of making someone stop the scroll. But I think another great way of doing that as well is by using good imagery, things that just make you want to do it. And then what you want to then try and do is try and make them ask the question. So you want to try and get them to engage in your content. That's a big part of social media. So just a bit of background about who I am. I'm the social media guy here at Clockwork Moggy. So we do a whole bunch of different stuff, but that's my real sort of dogster then, my bread and butter. Don't know why I got that mixed up. That's my real bread and butter. And basically what I'll do is my job is to get people to engage with people's content. So this is what this is all for. And actually getting them to answer a question or getting them to interact with your stuff is the most important part. So that's why great content needs to sort of fit in with that. One of the big things that they've added into Canva recently, which is quite impressive, and I think it's probably one of the strongest reasons why people are not moving over from Photoshop as such, but are definitely using it more for like social content. So what you'll find is if you've got some imagery like this, and as I said, this kind of just looks a little bit strange because it's got a big block in the middle of white, which isn't quite what you want. They've added in some new effects. So how you get to those, just by clicking on the photo and effects in the top left. They've got a whole bunch of different ones, but the most important one that you're going to find in here is background remover. It's a really great tool, and it's pretty good at working out what the backgrounds are. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's pretty good. And what it does is it basically just pulls the background out. It takes a little bit of time. It just finds where it thinks the thing that you want in the focus will be, and then it will pull the rest of the image away, leaving your background to be there instead, which means that you can do cutout images like this one instantaneously. A thing that used to take a lot of time to do on things like Photoshop, you'd have to individually draw around the edges, and it just takes ages. One thing I would say is that it hasn't taken Photoshop away, because Photoshop definitely is much better at it, but this is a really good simple tool for doing it. And if you're thinking about taking photography for it, just need to make sure there's some space behind you. So if you've got like a white background, you take your photo on a white background, that works really nicely because you can cut it out. If you're wearing white though, not so great. Yeah, just think about what's in the background. It's a bit like the old school green screens, works the same way. If you're wearing, remember like when you saw the videos of people wearing a green tie on a green screen and you couldn't see their tie, that's the same thing. So you want to just try and pull out the bits and make sure that it works. But what I think it does is it instantaneously makes your imagery look a little bit more professional. It's not all blocky, and I think blocky is quite an instantaneous way of showing that something has not been spent much time on, although that only took me 2 seconds and instantaneously looks a lot better. So it's a way you can sort of just fool people into thinking that you know how to use Photoshop, but also thinking people into just making sure that things look a little bit smarter, and also gives you more space to work within your design as well, because now I haven't got a big white block around the whole of my image. That means I can put some text in between them, etc., etc. And it works really nicely if you're doing it for people. Let's see if I can find a picture of me. There you go, a nice old cut up picture of me mid-lockdown when I look like I've aged about 40 years. So what it might be is that I'm trying to, people recognize my face because I've been to networking events. That's quite a normal one. And then what you want to try and do is try and get people who recognize you to follow you on social media, because that's the nice natural process. Because then once you've met them once, they can then see your content constantly. And then you've got an opportunity now then, because they've come on there, to make sure that basically you put your faces where you can. Especially if you're a sole trader, it works really well, because most people buy people. The whole thing is about building this relationship, and you can basically just turn what was a normal relationship in the flesh back in the day into a virtual relationship over online with them on LinkedIn or something similar. So by doing this, what I've done instantaneously is just giving myself a load more space, so I can write around myself. I can put more details in there. What I wouldn't say, that doesn't give you an opportunity to flood it with text. Like, it doesn't need to have loads and loads of text in there. It doesn't mean that needs to write a dissertation on there. But what it just needs to be is just, it just basically gives you a little bit more room to work with, which I think is quite nice. It just means that you've got more stuff going on. So yeah, it works really well if you're using it for a person or maybe a product as well. I might have a photo of a product I can use to show you. And what it does basically, yeah, it just means that you can, there you go, there's some designs. I might even have another design I've done before. Okay, so this is one of our clients. So a nice gin client, which is always the funnest ones. But we can do a background remove. We can take out the white background. It works really well for products. And then you've got the image there, which just means it's just a nice, smart way of doing it. It has got brushes, which you can then use to, if there's like, it's missed a bit, which sometimes it does, it like misses like the under of an arm or like the gap in my headphones. Like that's like a thing that it struggles with sometimes. So like what you need to do is just do like the erase button. But what I would say with that is that it then requires you to have a very steady hand, because you have to by hand take it out. So it's not so great. That's where it gets a little bit ropey. Whereas things like Photoshop, you just like draw little lines and it makes a nicer cutout. But yeah, pretty good. You can do that with your own photos you upload as well. You don't have to use the stock photos that are in there. So if you've taken like some team photos and you want to brand them behind for like a website or something, it's a really great tool for doing that. It works really well. There are loads of other things in there as well. So you can do things like, it doesn't really work so much for these ones, but duotones. So if you've got a brand color, you can put your brand colors, just so it's just your brand colors, which might be a thing you wanted to do. It's not very useful in most situations, but they have got access to a load of these different tools that you can use as well to change the colors of things. One of the things I think is actually it works the best for is if I take this logo. So say you've had your logo designed by a logo designer and it's in grey, for instance, doesn't really show up that well on our pink. I can change that over to be white quite easily using Canva by using the effects, going to a duotone, picking the lightest one that I can see. It doesn't really matter what color it is because I'm going to take it out anyway. So we'll go with the light orange, and then going to the adjust basically just means you can change the settings, you can move stuff around, and then just making it as bright as we possibly can and taking the color out. So saturation is how much color is. We remove the color, we turn the contrast up, which means we take out all the color again and make it as white as we can, and the brightness makes it light. So therefore we now got a nice white logo which we can use in our branding. So it's a really simple way of just making sure you've got the right stuff in there to use going forwards. It's quite a good tool for logos is one that comes up a lot. That is sometimes it's quite hard for you to put them onto like a busy background or something. So you can play with them a little bit in the settings and you can move them around. So yeah, there you go. So you basically, that's the way you'd start to make a post. I better put myself back in there, otherwise it's going to be a weird post to post out somewhere. We'll use this. There we go. So yeah, it's basically a nice way of creating a post. I would never post this out myself personally. It might need a little bit more work, but we've got to do it quickly, so I'll show you what it is. But this is where you've got to a point where you've now got an image which we can then put onto Facebook. So I can download that, and when I download it, I can download it as whatever I wanted to do. You can do it as a PDF, you can do it as a PNG, a JPEG. You can also do things like you can do GIFs, you can do SVGs. So SVGs are basically the ones which basically mean that if you blow them up, they don't really lose how good they are, the quality. So they're quite good for logos again, because it doesn't matter how big they go or how small they go. So if you want to put it on the side of your van, it would work, but if you want to put it on a business card, it still works. So they're quite a nice way of doing it. But the big thing that's quite one of the newer features of Canva is that you can do video in it, and that's a big part of what they've sort of trying to move towards now. So if I click animate at the top left, I can put in basically page animation. So this is what this does, is just makes nice little things to put on social media that are just, again, all about catching your eye. So it just, a little bit of movement is much more likely to catch your eye than what something static would. So you can go through and there's a whole load of these that are just purpose built that basically do social media content for you. One of the things I would say is some of them are a little bit like old school PowerPoint, a bit like, whoa, like chill out. So just be a bit careful with what you're doing. You don't need to be like jumping out of the screen all over the place. That's not what it's about. It's just about a little bit of movement that gets you excited about it, and you can go and find it there. So just a good example here. So everything in the bottom corner that's got one of these little crowns on it, that means it's a premium service. So it needs to have Canva Premium to be able to use it. So without that, you can use all these ones for free, but normally the premium ones are slightly better because they want you to pay for it. As a business, it makes sense. So that's their whole idea. So I can find something I wanted to use and I can put all the bits into it. And then once I've done that, I can then save that as a video, whatever I wanted to save it as, and I can post it onto my social media. So it's a nice way of making some video content on there too. They also added a whole audio library too now. So there's loads of music that's available. You can just drag it in. There's all types of music, depending on what fits your brand. Again, some obviously, I don't imagine there are going to be many like accountants using dubstep or house music. Like you got to think about what your audience is and what relates to you guys. We've got quite a rocky team, so we often use rock music in what stuff we're talking about, and often you try and bring it through your personality. That's what it's all about. It's all about who you are and making sure that comes across. So a big part of it for us is making sure that everything matches up. And I would say that dragging these in and having a listen to them first before you post them and make sure they work. Well, there you go, playing out loud now. It's a good way of getting it started. So it's a nice way of just adding a little bit of something to it. Most of I wouldn't say you need to put them onto social videos if they're just pictures. They don't need, if you're making multiple slides like a presentation, then you might want to put some music behind it. But actually, most people are just going to be scrolling through, and it doesn't matter if it has a song on it or whatever, because as a stat, like 72% of people don't listen to the music or any of the sound on their social media channels. So that's why subtitling is so important on lots of videos now. It's because of accessibility for one, but also because, as I said, most people watch Facebook on the toilet and they're not going to play it out loud because everyone else is going to know they're on there. So it's a big point of making sure that you're appeasing to your audience. And I think, if you're doing videos, I 100% recommend you caption them. Like from a bare minimum, it's a decent thing to do for accessibility, but also at the same time, it works really well just because that's where most of your audience are going to be taking in your content. It's via that reading as opposed to via actually listening to what you're saying. So it works really nicely. I've got some questions here. What's the best way to download a graphic with movement? So when I post it to Facebook or LinkedIn, someone doesn't have to hit play. So the best way is, I think actually most Facebook and LinkedIn autoplay MP4s now. So they autoplay videos for you. So you don't have to worry about saving them in a certain file. The other one is GIFs. GIFs work really nicely, but they require you to have a slightly shorter length to your video, and they don't have any sound. So it sort of depends on which one works best for you. GIFs work well on LinkedIn and Facebook, or actually all social media channels, but videos mean that they can stop and they can move it through, which just gives you a little bit more flexibility when it comes to what you're posting. Because, for instance, if somebody's reading something and they're a slower reader, that's always me. I always get left behind and have to wait for it to go around the loop again. So like, it's always nice that you can stop it, you can read what you need to do. Or if you've got like an email address on there, if they can't stop it on your email address, they're going to really struggle to write that down. And that makes it hard. If they want to get in contact with you, you've instantaneously put a barrier in. And basically the big thing is that people they want as less amount of barriers as possible to getting in touch with you as there is. And that works through every part of advertising you're ever going to come across. You want to make your life as easy as possible, as less clicks as possible. So if you're putting a GIF in and it keeps running past it, they're just going to scroll on to the next person and find them. So just make sure that you're making stuff accessible and easy to use, and think about keeping the clicks to a minimum. That's what it's all about. You don't want to push them through too many steps, because the more steps you're pushing through, the more likely they are to leave your funnel, and that's the problem. So yeah, that's what I'd say. Use an MP4. That would work fine, and you can do it that way. And you can add your captioning files and stuff as well if you needed to do something similar. The other thing I was going to talk about, so when I'm talking about social media, most of you guys will probably have like a scheduling software. If you don't have a scheduling software, you might use Facebook's inbuilt scheduling software to basically preempt that something's going to go out at a time, and it automatically schedule it to go out for that time. This perfect example being next week's my birthday. I might put out a post that says my birthday is on the 22nd. I want to put that out. I don't want to work on my birthday, so I can schedule it in advance so that it goes out when I'm not here. That's quite a normal thing for most people with social media. You can buy tools that do that. They've actually now built in a system that does that within Canva, so you don't even need to buy an external system anymore. So you might have seen at the top here, mine says publish to Facebook. That's because I'm on a Facebook post, so it's automatically gone, well, this person probably wants to post this to Facebook, so I'm going to give them that option. But if it's not there, the top three dots at the top is access to pretty much all the share, all the ones you could think of. Instagram, Twitter. You can even save it to things like Google Drive, Dropbox. But what you can do basically is you can automatically share it to those things. You just need to connect up your Twitter or your Facebook. You just log into them as an app, and then you can then post it directly forward, and it just works, which is super useful. So you've got the schedule button, and you can pick where you want to go, pick your time, and then just it's off. So it's a nice way of doing it. I would say that we personally don't use it. We do still use a scheduling software. We use Content Cal. We use that just because we like the way that it's laid out. That's our personal preference. You can use whatever you want. I'm not here to force you to use anything. And if you're trying to keep costs low, which is what most people are trying to do, then this is a really great way of doing it. You've already got it encompassed in that package you're already paying for. So why pay for something else? It's a really great way of starting it. So yeah, you can use that for that too. And that works across the board for pretty much everything you can think of. You can download everything into whatever you can have it as a t-shirt and get it sent to you. You can have it saved now as Microsoft PowerPoints, which is really good if you're making presentations, because I think presentations for me are things that sometimes can look really stale. I've been to some networking events and I've been looking at a presentation, and as a graphic designer, I'm always like, oh, I don't know, maybe I won't go with that company. Actually, I haven't spent the time. And I think Canva is a really easy way to make something look smart. And I think we'll probably just go through that quickly because it's quite a good one to do. So we've gone back to the home page, opened up a presentation instead. So now it's in a 16:9, which is the generic size for a screen. So if you're taking it and you have to use someone else's laptop because your laptop stopped working in the presentation, which always happens, you can put it on a memory stick and you can plug it in, you can use it there. But you can also present direct from Canva, which is really good, especially if they've got two screens. It's got a presenter mode. I'll try and load up a presentation for you. We use this one. Okay. So, they've got, again, templates, and what's good about the templates in this style is that the template has got a template with a template inside it. So it's like this is the style of presentation you'll get, and these are all the different pages that you potentially could use. So it's quite nice for that style. So like it's got like this is the team, meet the team, here's our contact details, all those things you probably are going to put in a pitch deck, for instance. All that stuff's already available for you, and actually they all look really smart. As one of the things, I would definitely wouldn't be bothered about how they look, because they look really cool, and I can put them into my colors again just by clicking. One of the cool tools at the bottom now is that if you click on a color, so if all this stuff in here is yellow, if I click at the bottom here, I can do change all from yellow to pink, click that button, and it will change everything in that presentation to my brand color. So I'm instantaneously ready to go. Like I could just pick this up and walk out of it now. Apart from the text is all wrong, but I could just change the text and it'd be ready to go. Yeah, that would be a bit bad. I would take a different thing I didn't know was coming up. But yeah, I can then click on the present button, and what it gives me is the opportunity to stand and present, which would be if you press the present button on PowerPoint, it just fires up the thing. It's full screen so you can see it. But it's also got autoplay, which you can set recommended times in which it's going to switch. That's always a bit risky, because if you're like me and sometimes talk really fast and sometimes talk really slow, you might miss your cue. Always bad. And then there's presenter view, which is the one we use all the time. So what it does is it fires up two windows. The one you can see now is the one that I'd be able to see if I was looking. It gives me a timer at the top, which is super useful, so I can see how much time I've got. It also tells me what I've got coming up next. And I can also put notes in the side as well. So it's really handy for doing that. And you didn't see it because I'm only sharing one of my screens, but it pops up another screen, full screen, which I would then drag onto maybe the PowerPoint, whatever the projector is, so that you can see it on the projector full screen. And what it does is it just gives you all the notes you could possibly need. Make sure you don't run over your time, which I'm also particularly prone for doing. It stops that from happening. And yeah, it's all really good to do. You can also the new cool feature about this is you can do Canva Live, which is a thing that we use as different software for ages. And what it basically means is that you can get your audience to ask questions and they can fire them up onto the screen, which is really cool. So you can basically get them to go onto Canva.live, use this code to get involved, and then you can send questions. It's a Q&A system. So if you're talking to 500 or 50 people, it works really nicely for getting audience participation. Because you've probably been to an event, you've either been the person or you've seen the person who's really got a question they want to ask, and it's probably happened in this event right now, but they're really looking for a question they want to ask, but they haven't got the guts to put their hand up and ask it, and then they just miss it and they leave. But what happens is it basically takes that away, because they can just type it in their phone and send it to you, which then means that you don't have to then call them out and say like what the thing is, and you can answer their question for them live, and they can take so much more back from that event. So it's a really nice way of getting involved with it, and I think it's a really great tool to use. The presentation system in this is really well built, and I think they'll do a load of stuff to make that work better as it goes. They're constantly adding these new features to make it better and better as they go. Someone's asked a question. Let me ask this. Are you able to add captions when scheduling to post on social media, or does it only upload the graphic? It does only upload the graphic. If you're uploading a video, you would need to then, what it would do is you need to upload a CRT file, it's called. The CRT file is the file that basically gives you all of the little, so when you go on the bottom of the screen, it's got the captions that pop up. So the difference between a CRT file and burning it directly onto the video. So I mean burning it, I mean like literally just typing it out on the video. When I put a CRT file, what it does is it means that people can change the size. Again, part of the accessibility, really helpful for people that need a screen reader or something similar. It also then means that if they want to turn it off, they can turn it off. Because there's some people that don't care for watching the thing. It actually gets in the way sometimes, so they'll just close it and it's gone. So CRT files are really great, but yeah, unfortunately you can't schedule those, not through the Canva system. So you just be better to upload it. But you've got pretty much all the work done. You can just do it at the time. When it comes to making a presentation for a brochure, again, this will have loads of things available for you to use. The one thing I would say is that when you've made your brochure, so be careful about getting it printed. And the reason being is because the way that Canva puts its files out is designed to be made for the internet. It's not designed to be made for print. So there's what I was talking about earlier on with the hex codes and the RGB. So screens use RGB, red, green, and blue, a mixture of those. But as you might have seen from like the expensive printers, they use CMYK. So it's like, oh, you're testing me now. But the four other colors, it's like blue, pink, yellow, green. I think it's actually the same with our colors. That's the thing they use for printing, and they don't necessarily match up perfectly. So sometimes there can be a slight discrepancy between what you print and what you put together. very minimal, but if you're really anal about that sort of thing, then it can be a problem. So just, I would say it's really good for making presentations. Send it to your printer before, get them to give you some feedback. If it's things like a PDF brochure, absolutely awesome. Yeah, straight with that when you're doing it. So let me find, actually, that's a trifold, which you don't really want. You just want a normal brochure. So if I go to A4, you can save it in two different ways. So if I get this document open, say this is going to be my annual report. I want to send an annual report out that looks smart to people. It's got all the bits in here. At the top, I can go to download. There's PDF print and PDF standard. So if you're emailing it, PDF standard basically is just a smaller file size. So it means that you can send it over the email without it being a problem. PDF print is a much bigger file. It's obviously designed for printing it. It looks so much better, but it can also destroy people's inboxes. So it can be pushed into spam folders, etc., etc. So just be careful with what you're sending. I'd say a PDF standard will be absolutely fine. It doesn't like, the quality isn't going to drop so much that it doesn't look good. Like, it's not going to hit you that bad. So don't worry about it too much. But yeah, this is a really great tool for making it for email packages, for free downloads, to try and get people excited about your product. That sort of thing is really handy for it, and it works really well. And again, it also, same sort of similar way, I can take their thing and I can turn it all into my branding with one click, and I'm sort of ready to go. And it's quite a nice way of making these easy products to do, and they don't take up loads of your time, but things that you've been putting off for ages, like, do you know what, in my sales funnel, I should probably have like a free download to try and get people excited. Or maybe you want them to, if they sign up to your email newsletter, they get a free little guide about how to do something. Like, they're really great ways of getting people into your funnel to then resell to them. This is a really great tool for making those with like minimum effort and minimum cost, which is what you want to do. You want to give something away for free that doesn't take loads of your time up, because otherwise you're going to constantly be using your time, and that doesn't help for scaling your business. So yeah, really great tool for that. I would 100% recommend Canva for making PDFs of any description. It works really well, and you can change the size. So obviously this has gone in A4, but actually probably if you're using it for a computer, it works better to go the other way. But phones are they're a big way of people use their internet now, and they're also a really big way that people just use generally in their life. So just make sure you're thinking about phones as well. What I would say is that having a 16 by 19, which is the screen size, having it that way around makes it quite hard to read on the phone. You'd have to zoom in a lot, whereas this can be read quite nicely. So something to think about as you're going through. Just think about how your end user might be. Most people will use a phone. Some of the older audience as well, if you've got an older audience, will use an iPad. So think about that as well. That's an important thing to be remembering as you're doing stuff, but it all works really well as you're going through. There we go. So that's the sort of the basics of that sort of stuff. There's a whole bunch of other things you can do and create in Canva. What I don't want to do is teach people to suck eggs. A lot of it is quite simple, and they've designed it to be simple. So on the left, you can see all the different bits that are here, and they're all designed for you to then just drag your bits in, and then you can upload your photos, you can upload videos, upload music into this section, and then you can then just drag them in as you would. I've already explained to you about photos. Photos, obviously, there's loads of stock photos in there. It's pretty much everything you can think of. Just remember the fact that they are stock photos, and some of them are terribly cringy and horrible, and you should never use them for your branding, but you'll be able to see that by eye. They're pretty obvious to spot. In terms of elements, there's loads of element space in here. This is where you're going to find things like logos as well. So there are some pre-built in logos. So if I wanted to find, for instance, the Zoom logo, I could click in there and I'll be able to find it. I can also change it to my brand colors so that it fits on my post that I'm posting, which is quite nice. They won't all be there, so don't think like you're going to type in Tesco's, for instance. I'm going to type it in there. No, it's not going to be there. As I said it, I thought it might be in there. But yeah, some of like the other brands that you'll find won't be there, but it's the ones that you're probably likely to put in there. So like your LinkedIn, your Facebook, Twitter, all those type of icons that you're going to use quite a lot, they're going to be available for you to use readily. And that's because obviously Zoom wants you to share their logo around because they want you to go on their platform. So it makes sense. Tesco's already, they're not so bothered about it. There's loads of stuff in here. The other thing I want to talk to you about elements is you can see these things called stickers. So they've got animated elements in there now, which is a part of the process. So you can get these for free, and you can also choose these by going into the little cogs here, and you can go to animated, and I could type in cookie again because we're talking about cookies now, and I might be able to find some animated cookies. There you go, a nice 8-bit animated cookie that I could use in the corner of my thing. So if I was doing a nerdy cafe, it'll be absolutely perfect. There's loads of stuff in there that you can find, and if you wanted to do like moving backgrounds. As I said, I can't type when people are looking. I can find moving backgrounds too, which just make things a little bit more animated. I would, again, just be careful about the fact that you might go over the top and then like people are like, oh, my eyes just not going past. It's never good. So just, that's animated things are quite easy to get excited about and put too many in. But that's that text. There's a whole bunch of text that's available with some pre-designed things for you as well, which you can drag and drop in. But what I wanted to show you guys about text, which is quite important, is if I add in, let's get rid of this other stuff now. I've got a moving cookie in the bottom. We got our text here, which is in, I'll put it into our branding, make it into upper caps because we use that all the time. They've got a new thing called effects. So you can change text. And it's the thing that people were asking for ages, was you can now curve text, which is a bit, doesn't sound like much, but was a big thing that wasn't in Canva for a long time, was quite a problem. So now if you're making logos and stuff that want to be circular, you can write your stuff around. You just change it by moving the curve on the bottom, nice and simple. They've also got some other ones in there, so you can hollow it out. You can add a lift. So a lift is really good if you're putting it over top of an image, because what it does is it just separates it basically just brings another layer in between it, so it stands out a little bit more. And then there's other ones like neon, which doesn't really work when you're using black. Does a little bit more when you're using yellow or pink. There's a whole load of bunch of text stuff in there as well, so you can edit that too. So when it comes to this next one, this one's a little bit different. So I'm going to pull this back in. So this is the original design we had. So there's a thing called styles. So what it does now, this basically is like super easy mode. So what it does is it goes, right, here's the image. I want to change it to our branding. I click the button and it will give me a whole different options by shuffling it, by clicking it, of where it gives me the different options of my different brand colors in that image. So I can do that for any of my clients. I could basically make the same post for every single one of my clients within about 15 clicks, which obviously I would never do because that's not good, but you could do if you wanted to. It's a great way of going through and finding the different bits. But they've also got a whole bunch of colors that just work well together as well. So if you're like stuck for colors, there's some ones in there that are quite nice to cover and copy. There's a whole bunch of different ones that you can find. And I always recommend you go and have a little look at the ones that are in there, because what you might find is that they do stuff in a different way that actually stands out a little better. And sometimes that's quite important. So have a look through the styles. They're really good for if you're sort of lacking a little bit of that creativity, or maybe you just had a long day and you can't be bothered anymore. Both of those things are very ample excuses and you can use them for that. I've already talked about audio. The other one I was going to talk about was video. So video basically is the same as the photo section. So if I wanted to find generic girl dancing in club, which is always the one that you see on like all the cringy videos, I can type that in and I can find one and I can drag it in as a background and I can use that. So it's so when I'm making my designer vodka brand, I've got a nice background now to go for it, and I can use that. And so there's loads of those available in there. As I said, that they're free to use, to just get in and use them. They're really good. Some of them are actually quite good. Some of them are terrible. Again, as always, stock imagery, and they want you to pay for imagery, so that's why it's there. But it's a good way of starting. The last one's background. Background, pretty simple, changes the background. One of the things that is good to know is that you can save PNGs without a background. So if you want to save a logo, it's a perfect example. So if I said this was my logo here, I could drag it into the middle, and then I could make sure the background was plain, and then I can then go to PNG, transparent background, and download, and it will save that front image without any of that coral color behind, so I can use it to like layer over other things, maybe on my website or something similar. It's a really good way of, especially for logos, it works nicely. But if you're making like badges for competitions, or you've just won an award and you want to put it over the top of something, you can turn it in that way as well, which works quite nicely. Cool. I've got another question. Is there an easy way to convert social media posts between different formats, e.g. Facebook banner to Instagram, without having to manually resize everything? Good question. Yes, there is. Let's do it. So unfortunately, it's not perfect, but it definitely gives a big help. So if I take I actually take a social post that we've used before, instead of just making random things that don't actually make sense. So if I take, let's find one that makes sense to use. Here you go. So this is just a generic, like somebody's given a review. We've put it up as a post. It's got a little bit of, it's gone wrong. There's always the way, isn't it? It's got a bit of background on it. So we've got their branding in the sides, which is using the branding they used. So pretty generic. You'd use this all the time. This one's in square, so perfect for Instagram, for instance. It also squares. What I would say is if you're going to make one that makes the most sense, square works on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. They all like square. The only one they don't like is Twitter doesn't like square at all. So it will cut the top and bottom off, and basically like you get probably like up to the top line and the bottom line of Fabia. So you'd miss out a little bit of that text, which doesn't really make sense. So you might want to change this in to be the right size to use on a Twitter thing. Up the top left, there's resize. This is a premium feature, I will say. But what you can do is you can go to show more. Say we wanted to do Twitter post, type in Twitter, Twitter, and then post. And then, so at the bottom, it's got resize and copy and resize. Resize, what that will do is it will just instantaneously turn this document into the right size and everything in it. If I do copy and resize, it makes a completely separate document and turns it into the right size. So if I don't want to lose my square version because I need to post that still on LinkedIn, then I can do copy and resize. And what it does, it opens up a new tab and it puts it into the right size, and it has a guess at where your stuff's going to go. Most of the time it isn't right, but it gives it a good start. And you can just drag it into the right space, and then now it's a Twitter post. Like it's quite an easy way of changing them around. It's not perfect, but it's a really good start to making your life a little bit easier. The other way you say, probably the other way you're going to go is to an Instagram story, because that's obviously the other direction and quite a used one. So if I copy and resize it again, obviously you can tell straight off the bat, way too small. So I might need to move a few things around, but I've got the bulk of what I needed to do. I just need to grab the bits, move them around a little bit, and it's ready to use as an Instagram story. So it just gives you the bare bones and the start. And also it automatically gives you the right sizes, which I think sometimes can be a problem because, you know, I don't even know what the pixel sizes are for those things. I use this tool so much that they're ready to use. Like you don't need to know the pixel sizes. You just need to be able to find it in the right template. So it is good to try and make your post that you're using in the native size for the right audience you're going to be putting it out to. So if you're using Instagram stories, it really pains me when I see people put an Instagram ad that is a 16:9, like a normal screen size, and the top of it is just like blurred, and it just looks bad, instantaneously looks bad. So I think spending the 30 seconds for this to rearrange it so it's the right size is really important. Cool. So there you go. Yes, you can is the answer. It's nice and simple. That is a premium feature. It's one of the main things that I use, is one of probably the biggest premium feature that I use, because I'll make a post and I normally lead it by making it ready for Facebook in a square, and then I'll then change it into the other ones and then make them fit. And it's normally because my clients predominantly use Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram over Twitter. So it's whatever you're using the most of, you put that as the forefront. But that's up to you. It's different in different countries and different industries to what social media channels you've been using the most. I'm not going to tell you what they are because you probably already know, so that's fine. But yeah, that's a great way of getting them started and moving around. So that works really cool. The last couple of things that are in here, there's folders, which you can basically save your individual elements for it. So for a client, for instance, we've got some of our clients are on the side. We put some of their assets that we use quite often into their sections just so that we can use them if we need to. The other thing that is good as well is on these little little three dots at the bottom, there's a few other little bits that you sometimes get missed. So you can make charts, which is a really good one if you're making presentations. So you can put them in. You can then type in what the percentage is, for instance, if I want it to be how much, and I want it to be in my brand colors, because that's always important. I can change it around and I can make things look good. I can also, just basically do everything I need to do with a chart. If you're going to be doing presentations, that's probably a big part of what you'll be doing. It normally comes with the thing. Unfortunately, it's boring statistics, but you can try and make them look a little less boring. It's always good, especially if I'm there. I can't do boring stuff. It makes me, I'll fall asleep. So it's always good to try and make it a little bit more interesting. The other thing that's in there as well is, for when it comes to presentation wise, is you can embed some certain things. So for instance, you were talking about your brochure earlier on. If you were doing a brochure for maybe a menu for a restaurant, you want to put your Google Maps in the bottom, you can put your Google Maps and where your location is, but you can also put GIFs in, which for me are like the key elements of a good presentation, is it needs to have at least one GIF in it. So you can pop in a nice GIF in the middle, which just makes it a little bit more interesting. It pulls them from Giphy, so they're always, it's got a really good selection of GIFs in there, which you can use. I don't even know if, oh, there you go, look, that's my business partner. So you can use it that way. So with Giphy, you can make your own GIFs and you can then import them into this as well, which is quite cool. So that works really nicely. There you go. That's Joan Coworking as well. So yeah, you can make loads of different things, and it basically just gives you access to a whole load of GIFs that you wouldn't be able to get a hold of normally. So it's quite a good tool for using. The other things that are in there that are useful is you can embed YouTube. You can also basically, if you use HubSpot, so if you're using that CRM system, you can draw images from HubSpot, and you can also do it the opposite way around. You can save images straight to HubSpot if you're using them to post through that as well. So it works quite nicely. And there's a whole bunch of other different things you can use as well when it comes to the integrations between them. If you have like a certain thing you use for your imagery that you want to use, it's a really great way of putting them across. Cool, that's that. So I've got another question here. What is the best way to make a carousel series, a separate image, or can you lump them together? So I'm assuming this is for like LinkedIn. You see them carousel sometimes, we have to scroll through. Not sure of that. Oh, Instagram. Okay, yeah, Instagram. It works same. So yeah, the best way to do those is how I'd make them is I would create a design. So Instagram posts are 1080 by 1080. So that's the square. That's the size they are in pixels. So I'd make my own one, and I'd make it, I have to do maths now. Okay, calculator up, so I don't embarrass myself. So yeah, I'd basically work out how many squares I wanted it to be. So if I wanted it to be 5 squares, I'd just do 1080 by 5. And then once I've done that, I know that off the top of my head, obviously I didn't look at the calculator, that's 5,400. And then I add the height of that being 1080. So what that's doing is that's creating basically 5 next to each other. And what I can do is I can make it, so if normally the way that people would do these is obviously you could just make them as 5 individual ones and that'd be fine, but you want them to be seamless, which is the important thing. So there are a few designs already pre-built, so you could take someone else's and use these, but you're probably going to want to make your own because they're going to make more sense. But what you do, and the easiest way for me to do this is I'll get a square, put it over the top, and I know that that's one. So that's one image. So I can put everything I want to put into that first image, so that, because for Instagram, one of the things that I think people do wrong sometimes with these is they make it so it looks really great as one long thing, but then when it's individually on its own, it looks terrible. And it's the same as when you do see, sometimes you see the Instagram grids where the whole grid, they've done 9 photos to make them look like one great 9 photo thing. Actually, I'm going to show you an example of this because it's the easiest way of doing it. Aldi's Instagram. If you haven't looked at Aldi's Instagram, if you're not from the UK, strap in. This is a good one. They have the best Instagram going. So they're like a cheap European, basically a supermarket, but their thing is continual. So it doesn't matter how many posts there are in this, it will constantly all work together. It's even better on a phone. I recommend you go look at it on a phone. The photography on this is absolutely incredible. But what you see is like this photo on its own holds itself. Like that is an acceptable photo to post on Instagram. Whereas in the picture of 9, it also looks good. So if you do the opposite, where you have one, so I wish I knew an example, but sometimes people try and do these 9 and they basically put their logo across all 9 of them. And it looks good if you're looking at it as a grid, but when you look at it as one photo, it's just the top corner of their logo, which is completely irrelevant because I don't know what that is when I'm looking at it and I'm scrolling through my phone. So yeah, anyway, that's completely off the topic. Sorry, Annette. I'll go back to what I was talking about, but I'm really good at this. We've got to find it now. I've got a million tabs open. There it is. So yeah, what it is I put the photos in. I'll slightly change the colors of them so I know where the backgrounds are. And I can create my design across all of these. And what I do basically from there is I'll just make sure that they've got a little bit overlapping either side. So like, for instance, what I might do is if I use myself again, because it's easiest, because I know what I look like. Take this one, and I can pop this in. And what I might do is have like that, and it might have Karl's top tips at the top here, and then it'll go tip 1 at the top. And on this image, especially when you're scrolling through, it looks fine, but what it does is when you scroll, it's just like seamless and it looks really smart, and that's what you want to do. But the big thing about once you've got this is it's not finished, so it will save it as a 5 long. It will just be one long image, and you won't be able to upload that to Instagram. So what you need to do is go to an image splitter, and there's literally loads of these on the internet. I just Google the first one, upload my image. I was going to pick a random image. Let's pick, sorry, I'm going to do it off screen. We'll chop this dog up. So we make sure we've got the whole image in. And I'm going to do this one a bit like Audi's one. So I split it into 9. So I can do 3 by 3, but actually what you do is you do 1 row and however many columns there are. So this one will be 5. And then you can drag it to the size. And what it does, it basically just splits it into 5 and saves them as individual files. And then you can then just upload them as the 5 photos. So it's just an easy way of splitting them down. But there's loads of those on the internet. Unfortunately, they haven't got that built into Canva. I'm pretty sure, though, it's going to be one of the things that's going to be on its way. That also works for LinkedIn as well. You might have seen the LinkedIn ones where they scroll through. You have to upload them to a separate website, but LinkedIn teaches you all that stuff. You can do it through their system. But it's quite a nice way of showing something different. Cool. Okay, so that's one little cool trick that I wanted to teach you guys. The last thing that I don't think many people know Canva does, and it's really great for it. So how many of you guys have heard of Linktree? It's like a way of, like, on your Instagram profile, you can only have one website. And that's a little bit difficult because sometimes you have multiple websites, or you have multiple social media links you want to send people to, or because normally what I want to do is I want to put my YouTube on there, I want to put my LinkedIn, my Twitter, my Instagram, and my website. But I can't do that because I can only put one in. So there's a system called Linktree, which is used by loads of people. And you'll probably, now that I've said it, you'll see it. And what it does basically is just makes a really boring list of the 5 websites that you've got. And you can pay to have that branded, and it looks a little bit better. But you pay a monthly fee like you would for Canva. And basically what it does is it does this. So it puts your logo at the top, and underneath it puts all the different images and text that you might want to put on there. So it's quite a nice way of showing, what you've got up and what you've got coming on. But Canva's now launched their own system for doing this. It's called BioLink. There we go. So I can open this up, and it's got a load of things. And basically what it does, instantaneously just looks better. Like, looking at that looks so much better than what Linktree does. It's just like a list of 4 things. So you can brand it to your brand. You can have all of the links in there. What it does is when they click on it, it's just canva.com/your brand. So like, it doesn't look any different. I can pick this one, for instance. This is a really good example because I could change it to my name. I'm not related to Simon, for anyone asks. I then could put my image in there, and it's pretty much ready for me to go. Old photos of me. There you go. Let's put one a little bit more awake. So I put that in there, and then I can pick out brand colors. And then I can then change everything over, and I can change these so they fit my thing. So how you do the links is this little button up here, same as every thing ever, link button. Click that, type the link in I want, www.Clockwork Moggy, for instance. Apply, publisher's website, and I want it to be presentation. And then it comes up like this. So obviously it's designed for a phone. That's what the whole thing is. Most people who are using Instagram are using their phone, so therefore they're going to be finding it that way. And then what it does is it just adds a link in, which they can then go through to our website. And what it does straight away is makes it a much better looking version than Linktree, and it's included in your fee. So it's just super easy. Does it work with Milkshake? I don't know what Milkshake is. Sorry, you have to let me know. Send me a link of what it is, and I'll let you know. I was like, I work with a Milkshake pretty well if you want to get one for me. So that's one of the great tools I think works really nicely. It's a really new feature, and one of the things I would say is that if you haven't and you use Canva, subscribe to their newsletter. They actually send out loads and loads of. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so it's basically a replacement for those things. That's what it is. It's its own version of it. So if you're paying for that as a separate feature, then you might as well just not and pay for this. That's kind of the best way around it. So there's so many features available within Canva, and they're constantly getting added to. There's constantly new stuff coming along. I think when I actually logged in, it gave me a notification saying there was something new that had come out. But there's loads of stuff happening in terms of what's coming on. I'll show you if I can find. Oh yeah, so that's the other thing I want to talk about, which I forgot completely. So the other thing that's really great about Canva is if you've got more than one person on your team, then you can work collaboratively, which is super good. So have you ever used Google Documents before, and you can then both look, or Microsoft, and you do the online version, you can both work on something at the same time. So you can both type, or like one of you is doing the intro, one of you is doing the main body of the text. You can do that with this now. So what you can do is I can have a team, I can create a team. Let me show you how to do that. So you've got in this section here, it's together, and I can do invite members. I can pop these in, and you get up to 4 for free, and then you have to pay for some afterwards. The thing is it only comes around occasionally. It offers it to you, but you have to pay sometimes for it, but sometimes it does it for free. And if you ever see it, grab it, because it's so good. And you can add your friends in, and what it does basically is it allows you to just work on it at the same time. I can't say it any bit easier than that. It just means you can both work it and you can do stuff, and it's really nice. Like we do it as we've got a creative team, so like when we're working on a Facebook ad, my job is to make it look pretty, whereas my friend's job is to make it convert. So like if we're working together on it, I can then be like, oh yeah, great, that looks good. And then normally what happens, he goes, yeah, but now no one's going to buy anything from it, so we have to work together to make it sort it out. And he does the opposite, like, yeah, there you go, this will convert it. I'm like, yeah, but nobody ever wants to see that joke, and it looks awful. So we've got to try and make that balance, and it works quite nicely for working collaboratively of it. It's really good. Does Canva have a template for Insta profile thumbnails? It doesn't, I don't think. It does have it for Facebook cover photos, I think. Oh no, it doesn't. It used to have. So what I would do, if you're looking to do these things, find the right size and get a template from online, and then just drag it in as an image and put it on the back of it. It's the easiest way, because then obviously don't ever upload it because you haven't got the rights to it. But it's a nice way of doing that, so you got it working. It's yeah, that's for me. That's the only way around that one. Sorry, yeah. There's nothing built into the system. What I would say is you can obviously see the templates they've got, and you can see where you wouldn't want to put stuff. That's the only thing. So for Facebook cover photos, especially. Cool. I think that's kind of going to be it for me. That's an hour, which is pretty good for me. It's easy to input into Google Docs. So it depends in what way you're trying to do that. So if you're trying to do it as a PDF and save it into your drive, for instance, it will work straight away. If you want to just pull it in as an image, you just save it as you would a normal, just download it as an image and then re-upload it. It depends, yeah. Maybe give me a little bit more info and I'll see if I can answer it a bit better for you. But yeah, that's cool. Yeah, there you go. That's it. So that's me. I will leave it there. If you do have any other questions you want to ask, please feel free to do so. I'll put my LinkedIn in the chat. It's probably the easiest way to grab me. I'll drop my email in there as well. Let me not looking at my notifications. There we go. Everyone in meeting. There we go. That's my LinkedIn. Yeah, please feel free to ask me any questions. Pretty much everything you'll see that goes out on my social media channels has been made in Canva. So if you have any questions about what's going out there, ask me. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, I'm from Clockwork Moggy. Just a little bit about us quickly. We're a digital marketing agency based in Dragon Coworking in Rochester, hence why I'm here. And we are doing a whole range of stuff, from Facebook ads, social media management, to Google ads. We also do website design. There's 5 of us in the team. We've got a whole different bunch of stuff. So if any of the Americans are ever doing anything in the UK and need some help, then you can come talk to us. If you're in the UK, you probably, hopefully already know us, who we are. And if you don't, then get to know us. Look, add us on LinkedIn. We'd love to chat to you. But that's everything from me. If you think of something, or if you have any questions now I can answer for you, then please pop them in the chat. But if you don't have any questions right now and they come to you a bit later, ask me. I'm happy to come and jump in and talk to stuff. That's absolutely fine. Okay, focus on having electrical managable brochures for my individual clients that I can duplicate from my main info website. Okay, so probably the easiest way to do that actually is probably to not have it in Google Docs and have them join a team. So create a team within Canva, and they can come in and they can see their individual sections and they can work on that stuff. It's quite a nice way of getting to do it. You can do the opposite way of, so you can create templates. So let's do an example. If I use this as my example, so say this is a document you send to everybody. What I might do is I can go to, you can save things as a template instead. So you can do it as a team template. And basically what that means is that everybody who's in your team can then come and use that and change it and adapt it. So you start off the main one, and then people can come and make those changes, which makes it a lot easier for them to make those changes and adapt them. You can also, so once you've got that, so you make a template, which might be the one that you have, and then you can just have it as a personal. You can just change the bit you need to change to be the right client, for instance. And then once you've done that, you can then just download it, upload it to their Google Drive, or you can even send it straight to their Google Drive from the system. So if I type in Google Drive, if they're using Google Docs, they're probably using Google Drive. So you can just upload it straight into their Drive for them, which is quite a nice way of doing it. I hope that helps. Yeah, answer that question for you. Wes, thanks for coming. Yeah, great. Yeah, I think that's a good example. Is that it is really, really helpful to use for any small business. It's always the first thing I recommend. I'd say this over for social media and branding is one of the strongest tools you'll ever have. It just does. It's really great for keeping everything in line. And I talked about consistency, and that is the real major benefit of Canva, is that it forces you to use the right font, the right logo, the right colors, and it just makes you see everything you put out, no matter what size, shape, or format it's going out in, looks like yours. And that's important for when people look at your stuff. They just instantaneously notice you. We did a lot of that when we was working for JK, and Clockwork Moggy have done the same thing. They've got a really strong brand, and we're having to make sure that we adapt and use that as much as we can, because it's instantaneously recognizable. If you think of some of the big companies, like some of the big guys, you can see that there's loads of these like logo games now where you play their logo game and their logo's not there and you still know what they are because of their color. Like Red Bull, I think Red Bull's blue is quite an imperative. Like it's even on their Formula One cars, like it's everywhere. Like everything they do has that color in it, and it means that you can instantaneously recognize it. I'm pretty sure now, if you put in front of me some colors of some brands, I could probably have a go at guessing what they were. Like that's and you would be able to as well, because your brain's very clever and that's what it does. So that's what you want to start doing the same thing too, and making sure that comes across. There you go. That's me. If you haven't got any more questions, then feel free to go enjoy your evenings.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Karl. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'll send out your details as well in an email shortly to everyone that's attended tonight. But thanks very much, guys. Yeah, so please do connect with Karl and myself. We'll send out an email with some details to connect it. And have a nice evening or day wherever you are in the world. And hope to see you at another Dragon Co-working event soon. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. See you later.